Well, Ukraine in total has 5 nuclear power stations. One of them is Chernobyl, which is not operating, but Russians have occupied it as well during the last week initially. But this is a place where is a huge pile of waste, which is being, and there is a sarcophagus closing the fourth reactor, which blew up in 1986. And this night they have captured in Zaporizhia oblast, which is in southeastern part of Ukraine, a big nuclear power plant, actually the largest in Europe, which has 6 different reactors. All reactors are filled with nuclear fuel. They shelled it. There was actually an attack. There was also fire. One of the administrative buildings was destroyed. Firefighters came. They tried to put it out, and they would actually shoot at the firefighters. Eventually, they managed to capture the whole nuclear power plant and now have full control of it. Staff is operating, continues operating it under a gunpoint. And it's a very dangerous situation because, for instance, if the power supply, if electricity is actually stopped for some reason for the power plant, the system will not be able to cool down. And if it cannot cool down, it can actually lead to a possible explosion. And this can be really catastrophic for Ukraine, Russia, and the entire Europe. We have 3 other nuclear power plants in Ukraine as well, some other also in the south. There are some others in western part of Ukraine. But overall, there is a very high possibility for a miscalculation or for some missiles actually hitting this critical infrastructure, which can lead to the very serious implications. And therefore, it's so important now to really stop it. We really need to protect the sky. And therefore, we are begging United States to introduce a no-fly zone in whatever possible way. I know now there are different discussions, but what could be done? At least a no-fly zone could be established over Kyiv and the western part of Ukraine to create the green corridor for the civilians who are fleeing the cities in eastern part of Ukraine, and also as a route for the supply of that assistance, which needs to be distributed and which naturally comes from our western border.
Okay, Vasyl, the NATO said today they're still not going to do a no-fly zone. They have said that again today after their meeting. The U.S. has said it doesn't want to do that because the President Biden says they believe that it would make the conflict worse because it would make it a bigger conflict. But let me just ask you directly. I spoke to you the other day and asked you, but I want to ask you here on video. What are you going to do if and when Russian troops come to your town? How are you going to protect yourself?
Well, I will sign up for the armed forces. I'll get a gun. I was never trained. Well, I had some training when I was at the university, so I'm a reserve lieutenant. It's been almost 20 years ago. But I see my friends signing up. I'm there to protect the country. I managed to evacuate my family to Romania several days ago, and we have to defend. And you know that's the kind of unity I'm now seeing. I see people signing up for armed forces, joining territorial defense units. Even everybody's helping. You know, some handicapped people making Molotov cocktails. This is just an amazing time for the unity, and all the Ukrainians are there together fighting the Russian enemy. And we seem to be resolved and resilient as never before. But we do need to have something to fight with. We need air defense systems. We need some jets which could help us fight the enemy. And we need body armor. We need helmets. It should be there. It should be there so that we can fend off the attack.
So as you look at how the situation is unfolding, what do you hear from Moscow? What I hear is Vladimir Putin is talking about the possibility of martial law in Moscow, in Russia. He's talking about the possibility of a mass mobilization. That means, to me, that he's planning for a much bigger war than Ukraine. What do you make of that?
Exactly. This is what I'm saying. NATO is already involved one way or another. They can still wait a little bit longer, but once he's done with Ukraine, NATO will be next. He has appetite for escalation. He wants to test NATO. And the reason we are asking for protection now is that it can prevent the horrendous and harrowing casualties which are already taking place, but the scale of that is going to be, and the magnitude will be huge, because Ukraine has 42 million people. Now, for instance, the city of Mariupol is under siege. 500,000 people live there. People have no water, no electricity, no heating. Ukrainian soldiers are fighting off fiercely, but look, people are trapped. Now, continuous shelling and artillery is working in Kharkiv. Kherson has fallen, unfortunately. The city in the south, it's the port city. It has unfortunately fallen, but there was some heavy fighting around it as well. So I have a feeling that Russia wants to escalate further. They will probably not stop in Ukraine. Next target is Moldova, which is a smaller nation next door, and Russia already controls Transnistria, which is kind of an unrecognized republic from the early 90s, and which actually has a large contingent of the Russian army based there. So it's very likely that they will do it with Moldova as well. And Georgia is not safe, though Georgian government is now kind of more pro-Russian, but still, if they are pursuing that goal, they will probably go to the end. They already have all the sanctions imposed on them. They can become even more severe, but there is like nothing to lose anymore, right? Yeah. If NATO is not ready to confront him, the door is open.
One last thing, very briefly. What can the Russian people do to stop this?
Russian people have to demonstrate, and they have to get rid of their dictator. They should be there, demanding the end of this madness. They should go and on strikes, and they should get mobilized. But you see, Russian people are now isolated. I mean, they are just bombarded with the Kremlin propaganda. They even don't have access now anymore to the social media, to the international social media, and they've been brainwashed for a long time. But especially these days, there are some severe laws which were approved, basically stipulating criminal investigations if somebody is distributing fake news or anything. People are passive in Russia, but they need to do something. They need to actually get rid, because they're going to be suffering, and the only reason they're going to be suffering is because of Vladimir Putin. He is bringing all and inflicting all this damage to their national economy. The problem is that in Russia it's portrayed differently. Is actually he demonstrates this. Oh, this is I was telling you this. This is the NATO which is attacking us, and this is way to attack us is to impose sanctions on us for no reason. So we are fighting together. So it's like totally twisted. It's very Orwellian in Russia. And yes, we look. I have many Russian friends. Not a single one has written me a message from Russia, and these are young English-speaking people who I met when I studied in the U.S., when I studied in the UK or Sweden. Right? Not a single message. I get some messages from Russians who now live in the U.S. or UK, but that's it. So it's becoming like hopeless. Of course, there are some exceptions in Russia. There is some kind of internal resistance, but it's very weak. It's very weak, unfortunately.